Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Tuesday night chat. I'm Kelli Wilkins, your host from My Self-Reliance. And tonight I am joined by the beautiful Tahlia Rochelle from the Living Council. So we have such a full room tonight, and it's so good to see you all and find out where you're all from across Australia. And it's not a surprise that we have a full room because we have the most important topic coming into June. It's all about finances and My Self-Reliance. And we want to really help you, provide you with some resources that are going to help you move forward in finances. And especially it's end of financial year, it's tax time, and we've also been handed down the worst budget of all time. Say a lot of people. So we want to help you to navigate that. But first of all, I want to share with you some of the things that are happening around My Self-Reliance. So we've just finished the most amazing Tiny Homes Expo, where we had a pavilion to ourselves of My Self-Reliance, like an expo within an expo. And we had all of the My Self-Reliance vendors there sharing their expertise and speakers throughout the weekend, talking from every topic from 72-hour kit to we had Beyond First Aid and your Mila bag food storage and emergency prep and all those fun, fabulous topics that we love to dive into to help people get prepared in these times. So coming up on the 11th of June, we're actually launching our Queensland hub. So for all of those Queenslanders who are on tonight, we have a special Zoom link that night. So if you know anyone from Queensland or near Queensland, then jump on that one so we can share with you, especially what it's all about starting a Queensland hub and what it looks like to get together as My Self-Reliance members. We also have coming up on the 13th of June, if you are anywhere near the Blue Mountains or in Sydney and you want to head along to the Blue Mountains hub, they are having a winter cooking day, a skills day, where you're going to learn fermentation of sauerkraut and fire cider. So that is going to be a winter wellness workshop. Thank you, Andrew. So you need to register for that one. So you need to go onto the website, myselfreliance.com.au, register for that so that you can get what it is that you need to bring. It's $20 for members and $25 if you're not a member. And there's just a few items that you need to bring so you can take home your own sauerkraut and fire cider. So that is on the 13th of June around the Blue Mountains. All of our hubs hold their own meetups each month. It could be a coffee catch-up, it could be a workshop, so that you can really take what you're learning on Zoom and work together with the people in your community to apply it, become more self-reliant. We've had challenges in the last few months around food with our topics, our food, health, and relationships. We've done those topics the last few months and right into finances. So if you're in the Hills Hub area, they are going to get together with Michael Smagan, who's an accountant, a very clever, awake accountant, and he's going to give the Hills a really good overview of how to, read the financial room and what to be prepared for. So look out for those details. And then last but not least, we have retreats coming up. At Lily Pond's retreat, we have a Voice to Vision leadership retreat. And what that is all about is helping people to find your voice. So we want to create leaders, and you all have something to share, something that wants to come out that you need to say. And we're going to help you find your way of presenting that so that if ever you are called upon to share, you have the confidence and the structure to be able to do so. So that's coming up in September. The dates of that are on our website. Then also in October 9th to the 11th, we have the Women's Gather Weaving Retreat. So it's a women's only weaving retreat, very bonding, very healing, and you're going to take home a basket that you've weaved yourself. And so that's run by the beautiful Simone, who's our South Coast hub leader. So that's all the announcements I have for now. Stay tuned to the website for all the activities and register for those as they come up. So now I'm going to bring on Tahlia. And if you haven't met Tahlia before, Tahlia is the visionary of the Living Council. She has been teaching people, I guess, freedom in.
I actually just love the word freedom, and I think it's something worth fighting for, because it just the writing on the wall looks like we may not always be free, and our rights are not necessarily always going to be intact. So I quite like that you describe me as someone fighting for freedom, because I'm definitely down for that. Thank you.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for being here. We're so excited because this is such an important time and an important topic. And I guess the thing that's on everyone's mind, Talia, and go ahead and share us a little bit about what you do and so forth. But everyone wants to know how to protect. How do you protect your money? How do you protect your assets? How do you protect your wealth? That's the question on
Mm.
everyone's mind.
Yeah, really great. So, I hope you've got your pen and paper ready. Let me just quickly give a small little detail as to where I'm at. I have a background with as a mum with 4 kids, and they were coming to take my kids away from me on 2 occasions. And they wanted to do that on things that were totally like just system coming in and taking over. And I wanted to protect my kids most and first and foremost. And then out of that grew the Living Council, and we're just a community of people who share resources and work at ways of how can we move into the private and out of the public system. And in doing that, we moved out from just protecting our rights and our family to looking at things like protecting our finances, which is so important because here's the deal, folks. You got rights and God gave them to you. They're called inalienable rights. Anybody know what your rights are? Do you want to just pop it into the chat for me? Tell me, what are your rights? You have the right to what? Pop it into the chat. You have the right to move. You have the free right to move, and you can move however you like, on a horse, in a car, in a boat, on a plane. Right to privacy, right to free speech, right to your body. You have the right to association, correct? Good job. To work, yes. You have the right to free will. Really good. Now, children who are under 5 know their rights well and truly. And here's the deal, folks. They come from heaven. They come from God Himself to us, and they are ours. And kids can say them. 5-year-olds can say them. And we can really sum your rights up into 3 main categories. The first is you have the right to your body. Okay. And when COVID came along, we all felt uncomfortable, didn't we? Did you feel uncomfortable when COVID came along? And what it was someone wanting to take your right to your body and what goes in it. And they were wanting to press on your rights. And so that's why you felt uncomfortable, because that's a right that you have, is your own body. And that's the right to free speech. That's the right to what goes in and how you move your body and all that kind of stuff. Those main general kind of idea is the right to your body. And a kid would say, "Oi, don't touch me." They know it. Okay. Second thing they'll say is, "That's mine." And that's the right to property. And the third thing they'll say is, "You're not the boss of me." Okay. Don't touch me. You're not the boss of me. And that's mine. And that pretty much sums up. I mean, you have many rights, and they're rights given by God. They're called inalienable rights. And one of those rights is the right to property. And who here can tell me, do you feel like maybe, just maybe, your rights are being squashed a little bit? Your right to property is kind of being taken? Yeah, absolutely. Happiness. Yeah, you do have a right to happiness. Yeah, your rights to property are being questioned, and they're slowly being erased from you. They're being pulled away, and it's been legislated through the statutory maritime system. And so what we made a very conscious decision. Did I freeze for a second? Right? Yeah? Cool. Because I pull funny faces when I freeze. When we when we have property, it's ours. It's your property, and you have the right to have it. And property can be anything. It can be this pen. It can be the property that you live in. It can be your intellectual property. It can be your website. It can be anything at all. And what we found is that the right to earn income seems to be being erased. And that's because there is a statutory system, and that statutory system, or what we call maritime law, and I'm not going to go into it tonight because we don't have the time, but you can get the recording and have a watch of that if you like. Because of the statutory system, there are certain bodies that are very, very, very involved in people who live in Australia, one being the ATO. And the ATO is a taxation body. Who knows what the ATO is? Who's in love with the ATO? Anyone? Oh, what? Really? Really? Well, you will be by the end of this meeting, because you'll be able to go, guess what? I could be invisible to the ATO. So the ATO is a business. Okay, that's the bottom line. It's a business, and it wants to make money. And that's it. Like, if you want to quote to me that whole give to Caesar what is Caesar's and give to God what is God's, I'm going to tell you Caesar only ever taxed $1 once. In Australia, we tax it 7 or 8 times. So don't quote that to me, okay? 7 or 8 times. Australia is the most taxed country in the world. One of, sorry, there might be a couple of others. One of the most taxed countries in the world. And people are in this room right now. Let me know, like, if you earn over, I think it's $94,000 a year, you're taxed close to 50%. 50% of your, and then you have to do these fancy little magic tricks and claim it on tax. But here's the deal. You went to work and you spent your time to earn that $94,000, and then some company out there, and it is a company and it's registered in the US, it sticks out its hand and says, can I have half, please? You went to work this week. Think about what you earned. There was a plumber in the Living Council, and he earns $2,000 a week, and he took home $1,000, and then he gave $1,000 to the ATO. Is that not disgusting? That is disgusting. And the dollar that the half of the money that he sent off, that was the 7th or 8th time that dollar had been taxed. Like, unbelievable. That is ridiculous that the dollar keeps getting taxed and then we lose half of our money. So what we want to show you tonight is that there are 2 lanes. Okay, let's just imagine this is a highway. All right, we've got the public lane, the for-profit lane, and then we've got the for-purpose lane. In the public lane, in the for-purpose profit lane, sorry, in the for-profit lane, this is where the ATO can see. All right, you ever seen those night vision glasses? Anybody? And you put the glasses on and you can see things, and it's like green. You've seen the movies with them? Yep. I haven't ever worn them, but I've seen the movies, and all of a sudden you can see. So the ATO wears these glasses, and all they can see is profit. All right. So you've got expenses, and you've got a product or service that you do in your business, your time, and you've got expenses, and those expenses equal X amount of money. All right. And then you make some income. All right. That money that comes in, the inbound money, comes up to here. Now we've got this little tiny little bit that's left over. That there, my folks, is called profit. And that is what the ATO is looking for. Okay. And so every single entity that you and I know in the typical sense of things is a for-profit entity. Okay, so you got sole traders. Who here is a sole trader? Put it into the chat. What do you do as a sole trader? And it could be anything. You could be doing oils, you could be doing massage, you could be doing all plumber, distributor. Yep, you put down in the chat. So if you are a sole trader, you are a for-profit entity. Anyone here a partnership? Maybe put, yep, massage. Well, we've got a musician. Yeah, excellent. Concreting, all of these are sole traders. Now, if you've got a partnership, maybe you are in partnership with someone. Once again, a profit entity, okay? And it is only ever seen as a profit entity. If you have a company, can you put it in the chat? Do you have a company? Proprietary limited. Pop it into the chat. All of these things, folks, they are for profit. And even some trusts, just so you know, most trusts are for profit. Okay. And so this here is this side of the highway, and it is a for profit side of the highway. The ATO has their glasses on and they can see profit, 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 profit. Okay. And you've all just put down that you are seen by the ATO. Okay, every one of those ones. Who here works out of their own name? So, Erica, what if you're an employee? You, my friend, are also a profit entity. So, in some circles, people would call it their straw man. Doesn't matter. It's a person. A person in the ATO's definitions of what is a person is a company. So a person. So if I am doing something in my name, Tahlia, then I get taxed because I am a person, or that piece of paper that I write, that name that I put down, my personal name, my person name is down. It is a for-profit entity. Okay. So yes, employees firmly sit in the for-profit category. That's why you do income tax returns. Yes, because all they can see is profit. What if I was to tell you there is a lane where the ATO goes blind and they can't see a thing? Wouldn't you be excited about that? Wouldn't you just go, yeah, man, I'm going into that lane. Let me change lanes right now. Right? Who's in? Excuse me. Yeah, Marnie's right there, man. Kelli is in. Yeah, I'm moving lanes. And it is as simple as that. Because there is another lane, and the other lane is the for purpose lane. Okay. And this is they needed it because there were clubs and organizations of people who would just get together, and they weren't after a business, they were just doing things together for a purpose. And so they needed a bank account and they needed some way to channel that money. And so an association is formed and they sit in the for-profit section. Remember last week, anyone who was in the chat heard me talk about the RSL club that you go down to. That is a PMA, a UA. It's an association, folks, and it sits in the for-purpose lane, not the for-profit lane. Okay, I know I'm going fast because we've got questions to get to. And so here's the thing. You are currently, if you are operating in any of the for-profit categories, you are seen by the ATO and you will continue to be seen by the ATO. But Mr. Person, I want you to meet somebody. This is Mr. UA, and Mr. UA is invisible. Did you know that Mr. Person, you can be retired, and now the UA can take over and let the UA stand in the background and do what Mr. Person has always been wanting to do, and that is freedom. And so a UA, the best way that you can look at a UA is a whole totally different entity. Pretend it's you, but it's a different entity, and that entity works towards a purpose. And we've had many questions come in this week about, in what situation would I need to have a UA? The bottom line, and we were talking about it as a team, and the bottom line is everyone that operates out of a person needs a UA. Because if you have a UA in a replacement to your person, then you have a for-purpose entity and you are not watched, you are not tracked, you are not a profit thing, and so you don't pay taxes. Okay? Everyone needs to get a UA, and you can even function a business through a UA, and you can have multiple UAs. Kelli, can I use you for now?
Yes.
Let's talk about Lily Ponds. That's the name of this place, isn't it? Yep.
Correct.
Okay, so Lily Ponds, it's a business, yes?
Yes.
Is it run like a partnership, a sole trader, a company?
Company.
A company, okay? And so it's a business that makes a profit, or hopefully it makes a profit, yeah?
Yes.
Now, have you seen, folks, have you seen that picture where it looks like a duck, but then if you look at it slightly on an angle, it looks like a rabbit? Because you've seen that, or you've seen many of those sorts of videos, and you're like, look at it one way and it looks like something, and then you turn around, oh, it looks like something else, and or you see the young woman and then all of a sudden you see two old men in the picture.
Yes.
Spooky, but yeah. Okay, so this Lily Ponds retreats that you run here, it's currently a rabbit, all right? But what
Okay.
if we looked at slightly different and we went, is it for profit or is it for purpose? And we can turn that whole thing around and we can go, actually, it's a retreat looking at wellness for people, and it's about a community environment for people to be looking at wellness and personal development. I'm just fluffing here, right?
Yes.
And
You speak my language. Yes.
if you viewed it just slightly different, you can see it's no longer a profit entity. It's a purpose entity that has money flowing through it and it's doing things for its members, but it's for a purpose. It's not for profit. Does that make sense?
It does.
It does. And so you can turn your own stuff. So, for instance, if you are an employee, listen up, folks. Who here is an employee? You listening? Yep. All right. You can turn that situation that you're in into an association that is contracted to whatever your
Sorry, just give us a moment. She's just lost signal there for a minute, but we will have her online in just a jiffy. Milan, come
Hey,
off mute. Hello, welcome. Milan,
oh,
do you want to recap what she said? Is this the track that you've been down?
well, there's different ways of actually naming these non-registered private entities, right? So a lot of people in the Christian world, for instance, would know it as a man and a woman, right? So as opposed to a person, citizen, resident, etc., right? So that's already in the private realm. The UA is just another unincorporated associated entity that's in the private. That's again, same principle, but when you are born, you're actually born unincorporated as a man or a woman, right? And you are later incorporated in a few days' time when they through your birth certificate. So you still have that option to trade. Sorry, trade's the wrong word. To transact in the private, right? So
Mm,
without actually establishing any entity, you already have that entity from birth. That's what a lot of people don't realize. So if I came up to you and I said, look, I will give you, $10 for your chicken, you and I are doing a private transaction, a man to a woman, right? It doesn't involve another third party. We are contracting in the private, right? And we can use any means of exchange, could be money, it could be bartering, could be whatever you like, right? So now you make if you have just accepted, $10 or whatever for that chicken, you're not obligated to pull in a third party into that private contract, whether that's the ATO or the government, and disclose what that contract was all about. Does it make sense? Because you're
yes.
unincorporated, right? Or you're in the private as a man and a woman.
So I guess the question is, how if we're being caught up in the transacting it, with the ATO, the process to step out of that. And I guess that's what Tahlia will come back and share with us, because that's important, that we take the right method to do that.
Yeah, so private members association is one way. Using private, non-registered, private is probably not the best word. Non-registered, non-regulated trusts, right? That's another way, right? Where the trusts are designed to hold assets in the private, and they can get bank accounts without an ABN, without an ACN. There's no problems with that. Most of the big banks recognize that, those trust deeds. So yeah, there are ways of doing that. You can actually just, be making sustenance. I wouldn't call it income. Income is a tax term. So are many other terms there. You need to avoid those. It gets a bit difficult when you have quite a lot of assets and you're running businesses, because the businesses need to be able to contract with other businesses, right? And not every business with an ABN wants to contract with someone that doesn't have an ABN, right? So yeah, you could actually have a business set up just for that, right? So I run several entities, right? Through our larger state, we actually have a ABN that's a registered, GST registered, right? And it does business. It's done business with the government on 4 occasions where we actually build them, right? Quite a substantial amount of money. So that is income that is declared in the partnership, and that is taxed, right, at a certain rate. But if that business and government entities typically don't like to, transact with anyone that doesn't have an ABN, it's just the way they operate, right? But if you wanted to, conduct business, you can do it on a private level, right? You can do it through your trust, non-registered. You can do it for a registered trust, or you can do it through, like I said, man, woman, under whatever private entity you want to do it under.
Now you've done that yourself, haven't you, Milan? One is I like to think it's 1 foot in this lane and 1 foot in that lane.
Yeah, exactly. So, for instance, if you've got a self-managed super fund, there's very strict rules. You need to do audits. You need to have an accountant. You need to have an auditor. You're under the statutes, right? Under legislation, right? And there's certain criteria you need to meet as directors, right? You have a company set up as a trustee, right? And there's certain rules, right? And those rules are very strict. And if you've already established a contract, or you actually, as part of the establishing a self-managed super fund, you agreed to those rules. So you've got to abide by those rules, right? So that's one entity, for instance. And the reason, a lot of people go down that path is because they might have an employer, they put money into a super fund, and at some stage they want to take control of their money and say, look, I want to actually control it, take it out of an industry super fund and put it into their own super fund, self-managed super fund, right? So within the super fund, very strict rules. You've got to comply with those. If you've got a company, if you've got a partnership, sole trader, same sort of thing, right? You need to abide by the rules, right? And a lot of people use tax minimization techniques and other ways to avoid capital gains. And there's all sorts of ways to sort of, all within the rules and all within the legislation, right? But there are options, and we've done this for many generations in the past. People have acted in the private for a very long time. It's only maybe in the last 100 years that the governments have imposed and injected themselves in every single contract almost, including your marriage certificates, right? So they have injected themselves everywhere, right? And if you actually consent to that and you agree to it and you let them be in your contracts, right, under statute law, right, then you are obligated to follow through on those contracts. You can actually have a common law contract, right? So under a different jurisdiction. Same with the trusts. You don't need to have a trust that's registered. You can have a non-registered trust. So families have been doing that for hundreds of years, having trusts, right, in the private.
Mm.
Did that answer your question, or did you have a
Yeah, no,
specific
that's
question?
great.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I guess it's really, there would be situations where you could decide then which one's operating in the private and what's operating in the public.
That's right. So look, if you've got one property, right, you're living on that property, You've got a very simple business model. I heard someone say musicians, for instance. If you're a musician, you're a creator. You create your own artwork, your own songs, etc. There's no need to be incorporated. You can work unincorporated. There are certain benefits you get if you actually follow statute laws. There is certain protection, right? Consumer protection, etc., company protection. It gets a bit more difficult if you're litigating, if you are in the private, right? But there's no reason why you can't operate in the private all the time, if you've got a very simple model, right? As you get more complex and you're running companies and you've got trusts and you've got multiple trusts, for instance, right? You just need to know what rules to follow and keep things separate, right? Keep it in separate buckets and follow each of the contracts, and legislation or law, common law, trust law, equity, whatever it is, right, that those contracts come under, you need to follow those. So yeah, you can operate, solely in private. It is a bit difficult because there are some benefits that where, for instance, if like let's take driving, for instance. If you get a driver's license, you register a vehicle, right? With registration, you get a green slip. The green slip protects you and your passengers, right? It's insurance scheme so that if you get hurt, your medical bills are covered, right? As an example, right? So there is some benefits to that. But, with the latest, with the registration costs, going up, it's getting to the point where it's very hard for people to live, and to make ends meet, right? So you just need to think about, okay, well, is that of benefit to me, right? And the medical bills maybe, right? But I'll give you an example. I just registered a trailer, $433 to register a trailer for a year. I mean, that is ridiculous, right? There's no benefits there, very few, right? Very high taxes on the registration of a trailer, right? So again, you just got to look at what are the benefits and does it outweigh, what you want to achieve. So yeah, look, some of the entities that we're running, taxable entities, there's benefits, there's tax deductions and so on. But for a lot of sole traders, for a lot of, people that are, living very simply, there may not be that many benefits.
Thank you for that, Milan. Yeah, I appreciate that. And welcome back, Talia. So
Fun.
okay, a little blackout in the middle.
The lights out, the power's out. I feel like I might just go and have a campfire and see you all later. If you want to know the address, I'm kidding. Oh, thanks for being patient, Milan. You freaking rock stepping in like that. Woo!
Yes, thank you.
Every week.
Good to have someone who knows. So Talia, just to leap out off of what Milan was talking about, that's where you come in and teach people how to maneuver from the public to the private and how you can do that, change lanes.
Yeah, absolutely. And just knowing when, as soon as you get the public system in your space, it could be probate, it could be bank accounts, it could be taxes, anywhere where you are subscribing to a public thing like registering for GST, every one of those things that you do, you are giving opportunity to that system and you are coming into contract with them through contract law for them to have a part in that. So anywhere where you can find an entity like a UA that doesn't require these sorts of public oversight or interference, why not? And so take it up where you can. We've had a few questions though on CGT. Do you mind if I just explain a little bit on that, Kelli?
Yes, please.
Cool. So capital gains tax. Does anybody know what capital gains tax is about? Do you want to just pop it into the chat? What do you believe capital gains tax is about? Capital gains tax, what is it? That's it. Let's go. Come on, we got some smart people. Yes, it's theft. Profit you make when you sell property. Excellent. Yep. Theft of your assets. Anything else? Tax on profit over investment. Correct. All right. So you guys get what CGT is. And there are things where CGT, something happens and it's called a CGT event. And so even if you gift or you transfer something, you also trigger what they call a CGT event. And basically what it is another hook into, it came from yeah, it's just another hook for the system to be able to tax you. Much like the budget just released said that when you die, if you're poor, we're going to tax you there too. So it's just another opportunity for them to tax you. If you move your property into, we're currently studying this right now. If you were to do a declaration of trust of your property right now and put it into a trust, and you're still the trustee, the land's title deed remains in your name, and but you've declared that there is a trust in place so that when you die, and we don't want that to happen, but unless Jesus returns, that's happening, folks. So that when you die, the property remains in trust. You've made a declaration of trust. You can even send it through the Lands Title Office. Even then, okay, and this is something we're researching right now, is how to get around this and what to do. A CGT event can be backdated to when the trust was established. Do you hear me? A CGT event can be established, can come forward as if it was. So even if, you go through your entire life, the trust remains, the property remains in trust, but the trustee passes away, we've got a successor trustee that comes into play. And the successor trustee goes to the Lands Title Act and says, listen, I am the trustee for, because the previous trustee, being Tahlia, who just passed away, they'll go, oh, so this is actually in a trust that triggers a stamp duty, capital gains tax. And so we are currently in the process of researching whether the tax can then go on the deceased person or not. So just hold the fort there on that side of things if you can, folks. And this is the cool thing about the Living Council, is that that's what we do. We just go head and nail on this to find answers for people. When you do a transfer of property into a trust, that triggers an event. If you buy a property in an entity from the beginning, there's no CGT. Yeah? And currently, with the budget the way that it is, it's not legislated, folks. So don't get don't get your knickers in a knot about this stupid budget that Mr. Silly Old Man decided to do, where he says basically beneficiaries are going to be taxed to the hilt. Well, what you'll do, you'll just turn it around and you'll make it so that the principals, that is the treasurer, the trustee, the whatever, whoever's involved, just has a higher fee, and then make them, in essence, the beneficiary of. It will still be taxable. But anyway, I'm getting off track here. So you can buy assets in the trust itself, and it doesn't trigger an event, and so then you don't get the capital gains tax. The transferring of property into it does. Can you buy a property in a UA? Anyone? Can you buy a property in a UA? Yeah? Feel free to pop it in the chat. Yes, you can. Yes, you can buy. So if a UA wants to buy a property and have any property, it's put into the Unincorporated Association constitution. It's written in that it belongs to the association. That's like, let's say we had an acting club, all right? Because we all just want to do theatre like Tahlia does. And so Tamina and Katie and Paul, we're all part of this acting club, and we decide that we want to buy a theatre for our club. Are we allowed to do that? Of course we are, because it's for the purpose of the association. Everything has to come back to the purpose of the association. Now, here's the next question I've got for you. And this was a Q&A. Did you know that the questions are coming from me and you're giving me the answers? Did you know that that's what tonight was about? Well, there you go. Here it is. Here's the question. If the association, I created the association, it's a theatre one, and we've bought a theatre, all right? Now I pass away. where does that theatre go? Anybody? Pop it into the chat. Where does the theatre go? Who has the theatre? The UA. It stays in the UA. So what happens when a UA, what happens if it finishes? What happens then? Anybody? When a UA dissolves, what goes on with the property and the rest of it? It goes to the remaining members. Actually, it doesn't. It goes to wherever the UA, it has to be given to another for-purpose entity. And you get to delegate in the Constitution where the property of that UA goes to. So let's just hypothetically say that the property of the UA is cash, and it's cash that's generated by a family. And then one member of that family passes away. Then the rest of the members continue to have successor principals. So the successor treasurer, secretary, whatever that is, they have successor ones in line. If the UA, the family, dissolves, when does that happen? But let's just say it dissolves, then the UA and all the property within the UA goes to the nominated charity or other for-purpose entity. Folks, I just want to be real clear here. A not-for-profit is not a charity. A not-for-profit is not a charity. A charity is something completely different. It's a completely different ballgame, and you don't want to play in it because it's highly legislated, much like self-managed super funds and the gun industry. Okay, they're the three industries: charities, self-managed super funds, and guns. Don't play with them. Don't do silly buggers with those ones over there because they are very legislated, and if you slip up, major fines, major implications. So don't get confused with a UA and a charity. They are two separate things. They're totally different things. Can I add to the CGT, please? Yes, please put a question. Oh, yes, Milan, it's you. Come on in.
Yeah, just on CGT. So people are getting confused with capital gains tax. So capital gains tax, depending on which entity, there are different capital gains tax implications, right? So if you've got for instance, your primary place of residence, PPBOR, right? The home you live in is not capital gains taxed, right? You can sell it, you can make a profit, and there is no tax at all. If you've got an investment, whether that's property or shares, that's the main change in the current budget. That's who it's impacting, right? If you've got an investment. But if you, for instance, got an investment in a self-managed super fund, it's taxed at a lower rate, right? So I believe the CGT for super fund stays the same. Crypto would be, depending on where you've got your crypto, right? If you're holding your crypto within super fund, it's taxed at a different rate to if you're holding it privately or within say a business is holding that crypto, right? It's taxed at a different rate.
There
So you
have
just
been
got
there have been a lot of questions coming through with the Living Council on the crypto front, and it's really it's quite admirable watching so many people explore different avenues for creating income. The decentralized thing, this is honestly not our lane, and people have asked us in the Living Council if we will do some teaching on crypto. Our lane, and I need to be very clear about this, our lane is to help people to be in the private. And so whether you do crypto, shares, gold, silver, property, all that kind of stuff, it's just not our lane. And as much as, it would be lovely to be able to talk about many different things, we are all about how do we keep things in the private. So if you were to buy crypto, and the entity that buys the crypto is a private sort of entity, then it can buy and sell within that entity, but the entity itself is a non-taxable entity. It just can't, remember the glasses, folks. It can't be seen. And so nothing can come at it to ask for. But if you are buying it in your own name, anything, gold, silver, anything that could possibly trigger an event, and then you sell it or you transfer it into the UA, then you are creating an event. But if the UA itself purchases something, a property, crypto, anything at all, then there's no event there because it's a non-taxable entity. Does that make sense? So if you become private now, you can backdate to cover everything you previously purchased. No, because you're still going to have to transfer things. Yeah, if they're in an entity and everything you purchase is in an entity of some sort, it may be your name, yours and your husband's name, it may be in a trust or a company or anything. Any entity that owns that thing owns it. And so even if you create other entities like a UA or a PMA or whatever you want to call those things, if you create these things to get the asset from here to here creates an event. Yep. Anywhere where you're transferring something across, an event is triggered. There is talk about a declaration of trust, which we are working on how the CGT would work with that and whether it would just dissolve in death. So we'll come back, hold this space on that one, folks. So you would transfer, and it would be preferred to get it into private. Now, here's another idea. Transfer things into gold, and then all of a sudden the gold appears over somewhere else because gold is not digital, or precious metals are not digital. There's a hack for you. Get the cash, put it into gold. The gold just, where is it? And then it's just transferred over. Now, all of a sudden, this entity now has, physical gold. Yep. I'm talking about physical precious metals. That is a way of transferring things.
Can I just add on crypto?
Yep.
So with crypto, you typically buy cryptocurrency through crypto exchanges. And most, if not all, crypto exchanges will demand a KYC or a KYB, know your customer, know your business. So you would have to show them, certain, identification, mostly your license or something along those lines, right? Which is actually your strawman, your personal, identification. So that's how they tie it to your personal name, so that when you then sell, right, the exchange is then obligated to report that. Well, you are obligated to report that if you've made a profit, right, capital gains, right? But also just keep in mind, crypto is actually a special case because you can actually have private wallets, right, which you can transfer crypto to, right? And depending on the type of crypto, it's either a public chain, such as Bitcoin. So anyone that knows your Bitcoin wallet, right, and your exchange would know that. They can see the transactions where they're made, right? But there are some private blockchains, right? So there are some, coins, which are purely in the private. So there are ways to keep things in different entities and keep them private as well within the crypto world.
So the KYC thing is a really big issue, hey Milan, and that's where we're all just basically they're holding us by the balls. And if you go, I'll come back to the employees example shortly. What's happening here? If you just think about it from their perspective for now, it's quite smart. They want to know, and they find these bottlenecks. I'm talking about the system here, folks. The system wants to know who can we blame and who can we tax. So they want to blame if something goes wrong, and they want to tax where there's profit. Okay. And so when they are asking for, so the system wants to control, and ding ding, that is the deal. They're trying to control us. If that's news to you, where have you been? And so they want to do that. The best way for them to do that is to find the bottlenecks of society. Okay. And there are a few bottlenecks that are well and truly where everyone goes. One of them is the schooling system. Okay. Almost every child goes through the school system. So it's a great place for them to legislate school systems so that when all of the people go through that little bottleneck, they have to pass through a school. And then because they're passing through a school, the school has the legislation. And so the big old system comes onto the school and says, you must do X, Y, Z. Okay. Another bottleneck of society is the banks. And so what they do is they put legislation upon the banks and they say, you must know your customer. And they hide it behind this guise of safety for your safety and security. And so for the safety and security of the money that's in the bank, we must know the customer. And Milan is right in that when you go to a bank for anything, when you go to any if you go to CoinSpot, they're going to ask you for ID. That is all part of their process of KYC because they are legislated. And so, but what entity, I come back to this again, what entity is it that is in there? Yes, you might, like I have a cold wallet in the association, all right? No, not a cold wallet. I have a CoinSpot account with the association name. But they still asked for my ID. I gave it to them, but here's the thing. You have an association. Let's use mine, okay? I have an association and I am the principal of the association, all right? I am the not the chairman. Oh my gosh, I've got a mental blank. Like the chair, let's just say the chairman, okay? So I'm the chairman of this association. Now the association's going to roll on. Let's just say that we decided as a group that Kelli was going to become the association chairman. And then I resigned from that. Now Kelli is in. Do we still have the CoinSpot account? Do we? Yes, we do. Because the CoinSpot account was approved. Yes, we gave some ID in the beginning, but do I have to go back to CoinSpot and tell them that the chairman has changed? No, I don't. Think, folks, what if you got some dummy person in, a friend of yours, who said, yeah, fine, use my wallet, no problem, use my ID, I'm the chairman. Tomorrow, the minutes are written, the chairman is deleted, you're now no longer on the ID of that CoinSpot wallet. Does that make sense? The entity itself is there. Maybe they use your KYC once. Even in a trust, folks, when they look at a trust, they want to know who the beneficiaries are. So they're going to do KYC on the beneficiaries. Well, the banks don't do it if you have more than 4 or 5 beneficiaries. They usually won't ask who the beneficiaries are. There are little ways, little tweaking ways of doing things where you're still doing what they want, but then you just weasel your way through. Okay, now we had a question in there around employees. Yeah, you gambled the gold. Oh, the gold. I dug it in the backyard and I can't find it. Okay, the employees. So you are currently, as an employee, you sit in the for-profit side, okay? And you are seen as a profit entity. If you have a for-purpose entity, a UA, a PMA, whatever you want to call it, then that is a non-taxable entity. And every year you just report to the ATO and you say, are you still not-for-profit? And you have a choice. Yes, no. My preference? Yes. I'm still not-for-profit. I'm still an association. Tick that box. You don't need to be taxed. You don't need to be looked at. You don't need to do anything else. Now, if I'm an employee and I work for Bob's Building Society, okay, and I work for him, I currently work for him as an employee. I have options and I can go to being a contractor. You guys all know normal contractors, yeah? So a normal contractor is a sole trader or a company contracting to a business. Okay, now you're a UA contracting to a business. The only thing with this, and listen up, folks, is a thing called sham contracting. Has anybody heard of what a sham contracting is? Pop it into the chat. What do you know a sham contracting is? Yep. No. All right. Sham contracting is basically like I'm going to put a coat on and I'm going to pretend that I'm a man. Okay, I'm actually a woman, but I'm going to put, maybe that's a sensitive topic, but let's just pretend I put a coat on and I'm pretending I'm a man. Okay, now I'm all of a sudden a man, and everyone goes, no, actually, we know you're still a woman. That's a sham man. Yeah, that's like a contract that looks like it's actually everything looks like an employee, but you say you're a contractor. That's called a sham contract arrangement, much like sham trust arrangements, which is where it looks like a trust, but it's behaving like something else. So sham basically means it's like a pretend face, but actually the body is something else altogether. So if you decide that you would like to become a UA that becomes a contractor to your employer, as opposed to being employed out of your own straw name, then you need to make sure that you look like a contractor. You need to walk like a duck, talk like a duck, and then you actually are a duck. Okay, how do you do that? Well, the first thing is if you are a contractor, they don't dictate your hours. So you have to have it so that you say, I'm going to be working the hours I'm going to work. This is the sort of things I'm going to do. You may in your situation need to have public liability insurance. You may need to have, you take care of your own taxes, but you're a not taxable entity. But that's got nothing to do with the employer, do they? So you just tell your employer, listen, we're managing our finances. And anyone who's a member of the Living Council wanting to do this, we will give you a letter and we'll personalize it to you, and you can give it to your boss on what to say. And then you have a conversation with your boss and you say, we're changing up our financial situation. And so from now on, we would like to move into a contract arrangement where I will be taking care of everything. And this is what I'll produce for you. And then in exchange, I'll invoice you. I'll give you a bill and then you pay that bill. Okay? And then they pay into the UA. They don't pay into your straw name. Does that answer your question on the employee thing? How can you change from an employee to, I think I've just answered that. Yes. Have I seen someone do that when they work for the government? There are two ladies who were in the Living Council. I haven't seen them in a while, but they were both working for the Department of Education, and you can't get much more public than that. And both of them were ended up being contractors through their UA, and they operated through that way. It doesn't matter who the employer is. It just matters whether you can have a conversation with them and say, can we move to a contract arrangement as opposed to an employee arrangement? Yes, they can refuse. And I'm going to challenge you here, Erica. Is there any opportunity where you can start to create some things of your own where you own it and it's yours, like your own business or your own association, where you can own it and you're not being held by the strings? They can refuse. Yep, you do have an opportunity. That's great. I would encourage you, and we really do like to encourage people to try and take up some things that you own, because when you're an employee, I'll tell you one thing first. You are never, ever, 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 ever paid what you're worth. I don't care what wage you're on. You're never paid what you're worth. That's the first thing. And the second thing is you're at the mercy of an employer, always. Yes, owning your own business comes with risk. Owning your own UA, your for purpose UA, comes with a risk. But if you're wanting to move into the private, it's well worth starting to set yourself up in that thinking and starting to set yourself up with, okay, I need to own my own assets in terms of financial assets as well. Okay, probably obvious, but this is all completely new to me. I'm setting up an e-commerce business to sell a product. I've designed how would I set that up. Exactly the same, folks. Now, exactly the same, just a UA, and you would get yourself set up with a constitution. You'd have your banking minutes. You'd work out who was going to be on your board in the association, and you would go to the bank, set up a bank account. Then as soon as you set up the bank account, does it finish? Is that it? You just go, no. There's a few things you need to do. How many people, minimum, maximum? You need to have a minimum of 2 people for a UA to be operable. You can't have a UA just with one. It needs to have two people, and you get to choose whether both of them are signatories or not. So find somebody to go in with you. If you have 3 or 4, they start to feel a bit more comfortable with it. Um, I was saying something. Yeah, yes, it can be a married couple. Yep. I want to just point out one thing. GST, in the normal sense with a for-profit entity, the limit you have until you have to start. I didn't just say this. Who's telling them? Anyway, so you got this turnover here, and if the turnover hits $75,000 in a for-profit entity, you have to do GST. In a for-purpose entity like an unincorporated association, the GST limit is 150. Don't be fooled, it's not profit. That is 150 turnover. Okay, so you could just have your summer UA, and then when it maxes out at 150, you open up your autumn UA, then you open up your winter UA, then you open up your spring UA, and each of them max out at 150. Come on, folks, all I'm saying is think laterally. You just think laterally. What sort of a business? And here's the thing, you're not doing a business, you've got a for purpose association, and that purpose association has an e-commerce website. Sure, go for gold. Go for gold. Um, when I went to the bank, I had to explain what the UA was like for description of category, etc. Yes, you do. When you come through with and you have a consult with Sharon. So anyone that's a member of the Living Council can sit down and have an education set up with Sharon. She can help you go through this process, help you write everything up, blah, blah, blah. When you sit down with her, she will tell you exactly what you say to the bank and exactly what category you go into. Okay, and here's the thing. If you go into the bank and you're like, oh, I think I'm doing something illegal, they sniff it, man. But are you? Like, if you're going into the bank doing this, then you just don't really understand what you're doing because you have every right, like the McGraths. Anyone know the McGrath Foundation? Yeah. Anyone know the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation? Yes. These guys are doing it because it's perfectly legal. And so why can't you? So if you're walking into the bank, there's nothing to be afraid of. You just rock and roll, get on in there, and away you go. What's the cost of a consult with the Living Council to be guided through the process? So you just need to have a clarity call because we don't know if we like you yet. Did I just say that? Anyway, so I did. Tamina's laughing at me. So, Tamina, have you had come off mute, honey? You're laughing at me. You get to come off mute. Tamina, have you had your clarity call?
Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
And we're, yeah, in the works with Sharon. Amazing.
So it wasn't all too bad, was it, the clarity call?
No, not at all.
No. So did you get to meet Emily?
Yes,
Yes.
we've had 2 calls too. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And
So
we've also got 6 kids, 5 full-time, and we unschool. So if we can do this on the phone with all the kids at home, it's possible, guys.
I love it so much. And here's the thing that I love most is that both of you are on the call, husband and wife. And both of you are doing the journey together because it is there's always going to be one driver in a relationship, one that sort of pushes things along, but the more you can do things together, the better this will work for you. So well done, guys. And you did pass the vet, and Emily lets you through the gate and you're in. And then once you have your clarity call, thanks so much, Tamina. Once you have your clarity call with the Living Council with Emily, and she says, yeah, cool, I think we're a good vibe, we should gel. Then then you have 2 other meetings. You have a meeting with Matt and you work out your strategy session where we look at exactly where you're going, what you're planning to do, and he'll advise a bit more on what we think you should be doing. And then you speak to Sharon and she can rock and roll with you in a very personal way. So I hope that answers your question, Karina. And I think you should be part of the Living Council, mate. Absolutely. Can you have more than one UA? Of course you can. You know, you could be part of the piano club, and then you've got the acting club, and then you've got the, the plumbing club, or you've got, well, like, and people have multiple businesses all the time. People are part of multiple clubs. Yes, you can have more than one UA. In fact, it's probably a good idea. And when you get one from the Living Council, you can just go and duplicate it. You don't even need to have Sharon help you. You can do it because you know what to do. All right. Any other questions in here?
Do you want to put a link in to the Living Council so people can find you, Tahlia?
Yeah, let's do that. I am just going to send you to the website. There you go. That's the website. Just go in there and you can register and get a clarity call there. But here's the bottom line, folks. There is legislation even on organizations like ours. If we give you financial or legal advice, which we're not, okay, this is just entertainment right now. This is for entertainment purposes. But if we give you financial advice, then there you go. Thank you, Matt. So he's just put in the link for the clarity call. You can literally just click on that and book a clarity call. If you're already a member, you don't need to do that, all right? Thank you, Matt. You need to own this. Okay, and this is where we've given away our power so much to other people. Don't even give it away to the Living Council. You own it. You need to learn this stuff. You can go into the course and you can study it. Who here has done the course, the UA course? Yep. Was it helpful? Yep. So go and do the UA course. Learn this stuff. Be around people because getting the UA is just the beginning, folks. Once you've got the UA, then you're going to need to learn a whole new way of doing things. You'll need to learn how to write minutes. How do you manage the money? How do you report back to the ATO once a year to say, we want nothing to do with you? These are all the things that we guide you through the process on. Right, what have we got here? I'm hearing this is not for sole traders. Well, you heard me wrong. I'm sorry, Rose. You absolutely heard me wrong. It's definitely for sole traders. You absolutely should be getting a UA. And when you have a conversation with Matt, after you've gone past Emily and you got through to Matt, he will be able to explain a little bit more as to where a sole trader gets a benefit from that. And it is, yes, Leanne, perfect. So when you go and you get your bank account, thanks, Jenny, for popping that in, and they say to you, okay, cool, yep, we'll set up and they're going to say a business bank account. That's just their language, okay, for the same thing. So they're going to say, yep, set up a business bank account. And you go, yes, a business bank account. You tell them the purpose and they'll ask you what category it goes into. You say, yep, that's right. And then you say, but here's the thing. I want a bank account that it's not an interest-bearing bank account because the moment you have interest, that's income, isn't it? That's considered income. So you can't have interest on your bank account. And they'll go, oh, but that's got so many fees on it. And you say, that's fine, I'll take the fees. Don't earn the interest. Don't be fooled, folks. That's just a way for the system to get into that bank. Next thing. Can I be anywhere in the world with a UA? Yes, much like you can be anywhere in the world with a business, right? The UA is not you. It's an entity of its own. It's an association. How can I as a member talk to Matt? Marnie, fabulous. You can go in and have a strategy session with Matt. Matt, could you just pop that into the chat for us? Do you know if any of these structures have been contested with the ATO or the courts? Good question. And all of these structures have been contested with the ATO and with the courts. The question is, it's not necessarily around whether these things have been contested. The question is, do you know what's in your hand and are you operating it the way that it should be operated? So if you are operating it as a business with pay and employees and taxes and things like that, you are a business. You walk like a business, you talk like a business, you're a business. But if you operate it as a purpose entity and you run everything for the purpose, the trick is Here's the trick, Sue. What you want to do is make sure that the purpose is so broad that it can cover anything that UA needs to do. Get groceries, fill up the petrol? Yes, because that's the member needs. So your purpose needs to be broad so that it can cover those things. If you're asking questions around, is this legal, that kind of thing, you're not quite ready to operate there. You should get yourself set up, do all that kind of stuff, because as you're getting your bank account, as you're writing your constitution, as you're getting your purpose, all of that stuff, you're learning, your sui juris is growing and you're getting confident. Once you go into the bank, I tell you, there's this magical moment, and it happens every time. Who here has their bank account? Can you just pop your hand up for me? Anyone got their bank account? Yep. And Vic, can you just come off mute for a sec? It's absolutely magical, right? When you got your bank account. Oh, Donna, you just got yours. Come off mute, babe. Vic, what was it like when you got your bank account?
Well, I think I responded in circle, and I said I was doing cartwheels and somersaults in the backyard for a bit. Pretty exciting. Yeah, it was a relief.
It's a weird feeling, isn't it? It's like,
It is.
so
Yeah,
excited.
I felt quite independent.
Yep. Yep. And like you can hide. You can just go, that thing over there is out there, but I'm not.
Yep.
Is there a particular bank that you want to, or banks that you want to recommend? Because it's independent banks better than the big four, isn't it?
Well, I went with Bendigo,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought they were quite good.
Maybe anyone who has a bank account can put in the chat which bank you bank with.
Yeah, excellent. So Bendigo is what Victor said. Donna, you just got your bank account, did you? Come off mute, hun.
So that was third time lucky. I tried People's Choice, which up here now is turning into People First.
Yep.
Because one of my members is overseas, they wouldn't do that because we all have to go in there and show our ID and present in person.
Yep.
And then I tried Unity Bank. And I think it's been a month now. And I've emailed for the last 3 working days, and she phoned and no answer back. She phoned me back. She emailed me today and said she's working on it. 2 weeks ago, I went into Bendigo. As I'm a signatory on a lot of my clients, I'm a bookkeeper, a lot of clients' bank accounts, so they already know me. And even that took 2 weeks. So don't think it's going to happen in a couple of days. Make sure you've got plenty of time. That took 2 weeks, and I only just got it today. Yay!
What was yeah, congratulations, Donna. Like, that's persistence. Tell me real quick, what was it like getting the bank account? What did it feel like?
Well, kind of by the time I got it, all of my excitement and everything had gone because I've been waiting for months, right? So I kind of didn't want to be too excited before today. I thought, oh well, if they ring, they ring. If not, but I must admit, when I did walk out of the bank with my customer number and my password to go set it up, it was pretty good.
Yeah. It's a bit of a milestone. But Donna, here's the deal. It's not the end now you've got your bank account. It's just the beginning. So then now we need to teach you what to do next, and things like if you started operating through the UA and your straw entity no longer is earning tax, then you do have the option to be able to tick the is this your last tax return box if you want to. But don't do that yet. Let us coach you through. Congratulations, babe. I'm so proud.
We need to have a conversation about that. Yeah.
Yep, we do.
Thank
you. Okay. Are you going to be an accountant in the private? Who's that? Donna, are you going to be an accountant in the private, Donna? You're being asked. Now, do you need to have an established relationship with a bank prior, or can you just start with a fresh bank credit union you've not had a relation with? Kelly asked a really good question. Which sort of banks should you be going to? And I'm going to just explain, they're just business, okay? And all of them are actually connected to the big four anyway. Now, many people have tried the smaller banks and the credit unions and so on and had a bit of difficulty there. And the reason for that is just think about it like, a little hobby business versus a big corporation that's multinational corporation. They have different sized legal teams, and that's so they can take on, like, a small little business only has about this much risk, whereas a big corporation can have a massive amount of risk because they've got the capital there, they've got the legal team there, they can cope with it. And it's exactly the same with a bank. When they look at an unusual bank account, like an association, and they get someone coming in applying for an association, they their thing is, okay, all we care about is what is the risk here, and do we have the risk appetite? Like, can we take on a bit of an unusual thing? So we found that the big four tend to accept the UAs much faster and easier because they've got a bigger risk tolerance level than the smaller banks. Some people, though, fair enough, they don't feel comfortable there. I would just beg you to research and have a look. Most of the banks are connected to the big four anyway, somewhere. Okay, so do you need to have a relationship with a bank? Yes, most of them you do. You do need to, like, so if you have a previous account with them, it just helps with the KYC thing. It just helps them feel a little bit more confident. Even if that relationship started yesterday, that's fine. But that is an advantage.
Now, Tahlia, it is getting on to 9 o'clock, so we could be here and answer questions for the next hour easily. But we probably need to wrap it up a little bit. So, any other last words that you want to say about it? I guess I have one question around it is, if you were to start your UA and you had you're formulating it with your 3 people, say your chairman or treasurer or secretary, and you went into it and you decided, oh goodness, I haven't got the right 3 people, and can that relationship, if those relationships were to disintegrate, what can happen there?
You just write up the minutes to say that the relationship has changed and they've left, and then you can send that through to the bank. They will, if you're taking somebody off the bank, off the records of the bank, they will ask for the minutes for it. Very simple. There's no like tell us why or legal matter that you have to go through there. Do you mind if I just wrap up a little bit with why are we even talking about this? Is that okay, Kelli?
Yes, please. Yes.
We have end of financial year coming, and this is just an invisible line, folks. Someone pulled a date out of the calendar and went 1st of July, that'll do. And they made it this thing called end of financial year. All right. Well, the Living Council decided to marry up with that little invisible line and said, let's just set a goal. Why? Because we want to see adults, parents, showing their children there is another option. You've got the public way, you've got the mainstream way of doing things, or you've got this other little way. It's a little bit quirky, but here's the deal. My kids came to me asking me, what do? I need a tax file number. And it was because I had already done it that I could then say to my daughter, Carissa, you don't need a tax file number. Let me set you up with an association. And she runs her hairdressing apprenticeship out of an association, and she doesn't have a tax file number. Why? Because her mama did something that she can then follow. And so what we want is for you mamas and daddies to do things so that your kids, your grandkids, whoever is in your world that you influence can follow you. Because people only do what you do. They don't do what you say. And so if we set a goal, what figure will we do? 300. We're going to have 300 people across the line by the 1st of July ready to tick the box in the tax file form. And it may not apply to everybody, okay? But we wanted people who had some sort of a structure set up this side of the 1st of July or in the process of being set up, so that when the 1st of July came, if they could tick that box that says, is this your last tax return? they could confidently say yes, because I've set up other structures. Now, there are some situations where that's not going to be applicable, and I'm sorry, it's just not going to be applicable. But where we can do it, let's do it. So I'll just end on this. We got a goal to get 300 people across the line. If you want to be part of that, we want to have you part of it. Victor's part of it. Donna's part of it. Anna, I think, is part of it. Like, who is part of the 300 getting across the line? Tamina and Ro, yep, you're part of it. And Jude, yep, excellent. Stephen, excellent. These are all people who have gone, yep, I'm one of 300 people who are going to get across the line, and we're going to have a bunch of families who are going to start to be a little bit strong, and then a little bit more strong, and then a little bit more strong, until eventually we've got all of these lions out there. No more sheeple.
Very powerful. Putting the power back in your own hands.
Too
Well, I
right.
think it's a great goal, and I think it's a great group of people that you've got here, and those who are working with you on team and those who are working with you to set up their own UAs. Well done. Congratulations to you all. We are going to, on the 23rd of June, we talked a little bit tonight about investments. Milan brought up about crypto, and we mentioned about precious metals. We're actually going to have a panel on the 23rd of June to discuss investments. So what's going to be right for you? And look at all the pros and cons of crypto, property, precious metals. So we'll have a panel discussion. We'll have you can ask all your questions and layer that on tonight's conversation as well. So set you up for our financial end of financial year. So thank you everyone who came along tonight and asked really great questions. I said to Tahlia, look, they're usually pretty quiet on a Tuesday night. She says, no, they'll ask questions.
We prayed about it too, didn't we?
We did. So thank you everyone. It was fabulous to have you on, and do join us next Tuesday. It's our members night, and we'll do a deep dive for all of our members. And if you want to be a guest, then do register for next Tuesday night so you can see what our members call looks like. You may be a guest, and see what it looks like to join my self-reliance. It's where we put the rubber to the road and help you get your goals met. So thanks, Tahlia. You're amazing.
Thank you, Kelli, and everybody else. Like, man, you guys gave up a night to be here with Kelli and the My Self-Reliance team. I have a personal love for this group because there's a few people who are part of the Living Council, but more so because Kelli has a heart for helping families as the system is coming in for the squeeze. And she's like, you can be autonomous, you can be sovereign. So if you're part of the Living Council and you just came across My Self-Reliance, I suggest you do it. It actually ties in really well. You do the 4:30 meeting with the Living Council, then you just go and have dinner with your family, finished wiping all the spaghetti off your face, then you jump into Kelli's meetings on a Tuesday night. It just works in perfectly, and it's like your sovereign night, man. But Kelli, thanks for having all of us. I mean, you had me, but then a whole stack of people from the Living Council too. I have so much respect for what you're doing. The biggest part that I love about the My Self-Reliance group, and folks, I want to piggyback Kelli, is the communities. They have hubs, man, and they get together and they discuss things and they have little challenges that they do. So, like, who here can change where they buy their eggs from? There's a challenge for this week. That's the sort of golden community we need to be connected into. So if you can find a hub with Kelli, yeah, definitely rock and roll. I'm probably going to look for one. Thanks, Kelli.
Thanks, Tahlia. And also thanks, Milan, jumping on tonight when filling in when we lost Tahlia for a minute too.
Yeah,
Appreciate you guys. Thank you. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.